Thanks for tuning in to leftcoastnews.net. News and information from the wacky, sometimes communist, liberal west coast of the United States. For more, visit leftcoastnews.net.
All right, well, keeping with the theme that we've been going with on crime and criminals being released over and over again in these West Coast states, the Oregon Department of Corrections has quietly re-examined the sentences of the vast majority of the state's prisoners after a court ruling this summer, sometimes shaving off years on a prisoner's time, and in some cases releasing dozens outright without alerting prosecutors. The massive review has led to earlier release dates for about 350 prisoners, including about 40 who were immediately released, corrections officials said. The new release dates apply to convictions that include murder, rape, and assault. According to agency data, at least 67 prisoners saw their sentence cut by a year or more. In one case, the data shows the agency trimmed a dozen years off a defendant's sentence. In what world does the Corrections Department have the right to adjust people's sentences? Prosecutors this week questioned the state's legal analysis of the Oregon Supreme Court ruling dealing with the sometimes complex calculus of prison sentences and accused the Corrections Department of mismanaging its review. They said the new release dates blindsided not only district attorneys' offices but also crime victims. But nobody cares about crime victims. The Oregon District Attorneys Association on Thursday urged Governor Tina Kotek to order an immediate pause to implementation of new sentencing formulas until there is a greater clarity and consensus on how it should be applied. This pause is essential to ensure that individuals who should remain incarcerated are not prematurely released, that victims are given the time and respect they deserve, the Prosecutors Association said in a statement. Kotek's office did not respond to requests for comment. Surprise, surprise. The Supreme Court ruling stemmed from an argument by criminal defendant Abraham Torres Lopez that the sentence computation unit of the Corrections Department should have credited him for the roughly 4 months he spent in 2 county jails on various criminal charges when it calculated his ultimate prison sentence on a Marion County conviction. The court ruled that a trial court may give credit for concurrent jail time on separate allegations in another county. It also found defendants may get credit for time they spent in jail for violating the terms of probation. The ruling didn't make much of a splash in legal circles when it came out in July, but it prompted the Corrections Department to re-examine the sentences of an estimated 11,000 prisoners. About 12,000 people are incarcerated in the state. Broadly, prosecutors say the ruling affected 2 groups, prisoners serving consecutive sentences for multiple convictions and those facing prosecution in multiple counties. Corrections spokesperson Amber Campbell said corrections officials worked with the Oregon Department of Justice lawyers to guide the application of the court ruling and worked diligently to implement the sentence recalculation order and alerted affected parties. They still have 500 cases to review after reviewing 10,500 in total. She said the updated release information was entered into the state's victim notification system, which alerts victims about a defendant's status. Not all victims sign up for the service. Why should a victim have to sign up to be notified? That onus is on the state. This has also gone out in Washington. Something similar happened, and I'm assuming in California as well, because they don't care about victims. They care about getting criminals back on the street to create as much chaos as possible. And that's what's happening. And you know what? We should not be going back and changing sentences from past convictions. We could spin our wheels all day long debating about this or that, those cases have been decided by the law at the time. This constant posturing of letting criminals out or not convicting people has got to stop. This is how they sit up there and tell you that crime is down when it is not. Crime is up. But they're not prosecuting these cases. They're not incarcerating these people. So they can tell you that crime is down because prosecutions are down and incarcerations are down. They're not looking at all the arrests and the overworked police officers on the street every day. Because if they were looking at those numbers, you would know that crime is through the freaking roof on this west left coast. We tired of this yet? Here's another hot button right now. We're not spending money on illegal aliens to have medical coverage, free medical, right? The Democrats in the federal level, at the federal level, like to say that that's illegal. We're not doing that. The Republicans are lying, blah, 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 blah. But we here on the West Coast know that that is a lie, that they are paying for illegals to have free medical. And the way they're doing that is they take the money from the feds for medical and they create these state programs. They do it in Washington, they do it in Oregon, they do it in California. They create these state programs where they provide free medical to illegals. State citizens don't get free medical. Veterans don't get free medical. But our foreign friends, they do. And they just want to keep lying about it. But here's a story out of Oregon, which is also same story in Washington and California, but for the current biennium, about $1.2 billion is budgeted towards the Healthier Oregon program. That's according to a spokesperson from the Oregon Health Authority. Additionally, about $717 million is budgeted towards the Oregon State Patrol. They are spending more money in Oregon on illegal immigrant medical than they are on the Oregon State Police. This is according to the Department of State Police legislative adopted budget. Essentially, the state is going to be spending a little less than double what it's spending on state police on health care for non-citizens. According to the Oregon Health Authority's budget review for the current biennium, the program is an Oregon Health Plan, OHP, non-Medicaid program that covers members who meet eligibility requirements for OHP except for their citizenship status, which means every illegal is qualified for this medical. KATU asked Elmer about the disparity. Specifically, we asked why not fund undocumented immigrants in their health care as opposed to making hospitals bear the cost for ER visits that will inevitably occur. Yeah, and I think you know that is a fair question, and that is a good point, and that's definitely part of the conversation, but it's not only the only conversation here at hand, said Elmer. But what else is happening here is that this coverage to Healthy Oregon is way more than just emergency room visits. I mean, we're talking full-on dental care, full-on health care, including preventative. We're talking about psychiatric care. A spokesperson for the Oregon Health Authority weighed in, telling KATU people with health coverage can instead focus on, this is people who already have health coverage, right? And illegals, but you get the point. This is where they're going with this. People with health coverage can instead focus on earning a living, raising their families, supporting the larger community, and making Oregon a better place for all. Healthier Oregon enables more people to be insured and helps keep the overall cost of healthcare down. Well, does it? I don't think so. Healthcare is about to go through the roof. It's gone up year over year over year. Has not gone down because there's too many people and they have to keep upping the amount of money that gets spent on healthcare. And how many of these illegals that are on free healthcare are working? How many of them are on SNAP benefits? How many of them are on housing subsidies or free rent altogether? Those of us who work are paying for this. Those of us who work don't get free healthcare. We're paying hundreds of dollars out of pocket a month for this healthcare that we get through our employers. And on top of that, we're paying money when we go to the doctor. Co-pays and all this other garbage. Employers are paying through the roof to give medical to their employees. In King County, they cover their employees with full medical, meaning the employees don't pay any out of pocket, which is nice. They're also paying $9 million a month to insure King County employees. $9 million. Is this sustainable? Do you wonder where your taxes go? In a news release sent earlier this week, Elmer called for accountability over the disparity. This is what we asked her. You mentioned accountability here is important, but since the budget's already passed, what does accountability look like? She said, in part, broadly speaking, accountability is we want to make sure that we're giving the whole story to Oregonians so they understand exactly what all these numbers mean. Spokesperson for the Oregon Health Authority sent us general information about the Healthier Oregon Plan. Oregon Health Authority continues to stand with immigrant communities and all 1.4 million people who rely on Oregon's Medicaid program. Our mission is to ensure health care access, and we oppose all efforts to thwart it. Since July 2023, Healthier Oregon has provided free health care to children and adults who meet income and other eligibility requirements criteria for the state's Medicaid program, regardless of their immigration status. These people are not paying into any programs, but they're getting all the programs over the rest of us. About 105,000 people are currently enrolled in Healthier Oregon, which covers the same physical, behavioral, and oral health care that is covered by Oregon's traditional Medicaid program, including primary care, emergency and hospital care, and prescription medications. A variety of immigrants can qualify for Healthier Oregon, including people who have refugee status, lawful permanent residents, green card holders, who have been in the U.S. less than 5 years, those that are enrolled in DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, individuals with student or work visas, and others who would otherwise qualify for Medicaid except for their immigration status. So everyone. Every foreigner. The total 2025-27 budget for the Healthier Oregon program is approximately $1.2 billion for 105,000 people. $1.2 billion. With about $900 million covered by state funds, that's your taxes, your work, and about $300 million covered by federal funds. The federal funding portion covers emergency and pregnancy care that the federal government is required to cover nationwide per the Emergency Medical Treatment and Active Labor Act of 1986. It's just insane that these states, these liberal states, operate like this, blowing billions of dollars on all these little pet projects that we can't afford. All these states are in huge budget deficits. You and I can't run our household on a budget deficit. You and I can't run a business on a budget deficit. You'd go out of business. These states should be out of business. These politicians should be out of business. They don't manage our money. In what world do you run billions of dollars of deficits? Hundreds of millions of dollars in deficits and continue to operate? Is there any common sense whatsoever left? Another issue we've got here on the left coast is these states giving CDLs to illegals who can't speak English or read English or write English. Tell me something. How do you navigate the highways of this country without being able to read street signs or maps or what? I mean, how do you do it? I don't understand. And if anybody's been to a foreign country, especially some of these Middle Eastern countries, and seen the way people drive in those countries, like there's no traffic laws, and then they come here and are just handed a CDL and a semi truck and told to drive across the country, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. This is happening in all three of these left coast states. And of course, most of you have probably seen the story about the California truck driver, illegal, who was in Florida and decided to flip a U-turn on a highway and 3 people got killed. So the feds are taking action now against California for this specifically, but I would hope that they would take action against Washington and Oregon as well to put a stop to this. I know they've changed federal laws about CDL, and I know that CDL holders here in Washington have been notified. Seattle, King County Metro has a bunch of illegal bus drivers in the same. How do you feel about that? Somebody that can't maybe read English, speak English, driving a bus packed with people through downtown busy streets. Well, those people have been reassigned as downtown ambassadors until they can get this worked out or find a fix for these employees. Where is the safety? Everything is just by emotion over here in these states. Everything. It feels good. It seems like the right thing to do. Let's do it. Who cares? U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean P. Duffy announced on Wednesday the withholding of over $40 million in federal transportation funds from California, citing the state's failure to enforce federal English language proficiency standards for commercial drivers. The decision follows a deadly crash on Florida's turnpike that killed 3 people and ignited conversations over immigration, licensing, and public safety. On August 12th, 28-year-old Hajinder Singh, an undocumented immigrant from India, attempted an illegal U-turn using an official use only access point on Florida's turnpike near Fort Pierce. His semi-truck blocked all northbound lanes, leaving a minivan with no time to brake. Idiot. The resulting collision killed all 3 passengers: Herbie Dufresne, 30, of Florida City; Rodrigue Dorr, 54, of Miami; and Faniola Joseph, 37, of Pompano Beach. And there's video of that if you haven't seen it. Singh held a California commercial driver's license despite reportedly scoring just 2 out of 12 on an English proficiency test and speaking broken English in a prior traffic stop in New Mexico. After the crash, he fled to California and was later extradited back to Florida by Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins, who personally went there and escorted his ass back on a state jet. In a press conference, Secretary Duffy called the crash outrageous. No kidding. No kidding. Common sense would tell you that this would not be allowed. But there is no fucking common sense on the left coast. None. Referencing the widely circulated video showing Singh's illegal maneuver. No one in their right mind would attempt that kind of a turn, Duffy said. 3 lives were lost because a driver who should never have been licensed was behind the wheel. The Department of Transportation has since revoked California's commercial vehicle safety plan for FY 24 and 25, cutting the $40.7 million in federal motor carrier safety assistance program funds. To regain access to funding, California must adopt regulations compatible with federal ELP standards, begin conducting English assessments during roadside inspections, and place non-compliant drivers out of service. Florida officials, including Governor Ron DeSantis and Lieutenant Governor Collins, also blame California Governor Gavin Newsom, greaseball, for creating a sanctuary state that allowed Singh to obtain a CDL despite failing basic competency tests. Gavin Newsom has had an open door for illegal immigration to his state, Collins said. It has cost us lives in forms of fentanyl, illegal immigrants causing accidents like this. The crash also sparked a wave of anti-immigrant and anti-Sikh Indian rhetoric, with members of California's Sikh trucking community reporting increased discrimination and online vitriol. Advocates warn against scapegoating entire communities for the actions of one driver. Meanwhile, the Department of Transportation is conducting a nationwide audit of non-domiciled CDL drivers and has vowed to crack down on states that fail to enforce federal safety standards. And the Florida Attorney General James Uthmeyer sued California over licenses and deadly U-turn crash on Thursday. And I hope the families of those people who got killed by that jackass sue whatever agency in California issued that CDL. Sue their ass for tens of millions of dollars, I hope. It is beyond ridiculous the way these liberals on the West Coast just feel like it's a free-for-all. No rules, no regulations. We don't need cops. We don't need safety. And then they lie about everything that backs up why we would need safety. Just where is the common sense? It's non-existent here. I would say like 90% of the population on the left coast is mentally ill, including the politicians. In another story out of California, which is also not specific to that left coast state, this is also happening in Washington and Oregon. Misuse of homeless funds. Hundreds of millions of dollars has been thrown at the homeless problem in all 3 of these states, and it's only continued to get worse. And as many investigations have found, that money is largely unaccounted for, and there's no oversight. Seattle just went through this where they got dinged for tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars that they don't know where it went, who it went to, or what it was used for. But, they just give it to these NGOs who then turn around and buy office space and 72-inch TVs for their offices and who knows what else, right? In California, as part of a special federal task force investigating where a staggering $24 billion designated for homelessness went, the Department of Justice revealed initial findings on Thursday, announcing a new criminal case against 2 LA area real estate developers who the federal government says misused roughly $50 million in a combination of federal, state, and local dollars earmarked for homelessness. This is not a victimless crime, said Akil Davis, FBI Los Angeles Assistant Director in charge, as the millions of dollars lost could have been used for housing for the homeless or other local priorities funded by California taxpayers. This is your money. Why aren't people angry about this? This is what I'm saying. Where is the common sense? Why aren't people outraged at the leadership in these states and cities over here for misusing your money. You worked hard for that. That money's supposed to go towards something, not some dude's cars or houses. Where is the outrage? Why are you ignoring this? Why do you keep electing the same people who allow this to happen, or who are getting kickbacks from these assholes that take this money and say they're going to help people with it? No accountability, no common sense, no brains. Cody Holmes, 31 of Beverly Hills, was arrested and charged with federal felony fraud Thursday morning for allegedly receiving $25.9 million in grant money intended for a homeless housing project that was never built. And I bet this guy gets a slap on the wrist, if that. According to court documents, the California Department of Housing and Community Development paid nearly $26 million to Shangri-La Industries, LLC, in October 2022 to be used for purchase, construction, and operation of homeless housing in Thousand Oaks, California. Okay. Thousand Oaks, homeless housing, really? The government alleges that Holmes, as the then CFO of Shangri-La, submitted fake bank documents and balance sheets to get approved for grant money. Prosecutors allege Holmes lived a lavish lifestyle and used some of the homeless funding to pay $2 million towards American Express cards that included purchases at well-known luxury retailers. Why doesn't this piss you off? That's your money. If you steal money or allow it to be stolen, we will find you and we will prosecute you, said Bill Esali, acting U.S. Attorney for California's Central District. Fox News has reached out to Shangri-La for comment, but, hasn't heard back. In a separate case, federal investigators arrested 44-year-old Stephen Taylor of Los Angeles and charged him with 7 counts of bank fraud, 1 count of aggravated identity theft, and 1 count of money laundering. The indictment alleges that Taylor provided a false bank statement and records to obtain properties across L.A. Most recently, prosecutors say he was involved in a 2023 scheme in which he provided false documents to purchase a property in L.A.'s Cheviot Hills neighborhood for $11 million. He then quickly resold the property for $27 million. At the time of purchase, the building was being used as a senior living facility. Federal prosecutors allege Taylor misrepresented that he intended to renovate and operate the property himself, but was already in contract to sell the Shelby property. The DOJ says the purchaser of the property is a well-known nonprofit in LA called Weingart, which uses federal and local funds to make the purchase. Prosecutor says Weingart is part of the investigation. The longtime CEO of Weingart is former California Democratic State Senator Kevin Murray. Murray was not directly named or charged. Fox has reached out to Weingart and Murray for comment. After the charges were announced, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass released a statement saying, in part, my administration has zero tolerance for corruption, period. Oh, God, please. We're working with the U.S. Attorney's Office to ensure that anyone who engages in fraud against the city will face the full force of the law and my administration's unwavering commitment to accountability. I won't even go into what kind of fraud she is. An absolute piece of trash. In April of this year, the DOJ prosecutor announced the launch of the Homeless Fraud and Corruption Task Force aimed at investigating how the state, California, spent $24 billion between fiscal years 2018 and 2023. California state officials failed to provide meaningful oversight over the individuals who received most of these funds, and they had little to no answer to the public's demand for accountability. Well, that accountability starts today. Nothing will be done. This will continue like it always has. I have to understand, when will people have had enough of this? They are raping you every chance they get on the left coast. Taxes for everything. Highest prices for property. they're constantly finding reasons to take more of your hard-earned money for garbage like this. Where was the oversight? How did these people get these loans or grants? Who's not doing their due diligence to check these faked documents to get this stuff? People who don't care because it's not their money. It's your money. It's taxpayer money. Who cares? It's like a bottomless pit. They'll just keep taking and taking and taking from us. When will you say enough is enough? When will you stop voting these people into office who just want to abuse everything? Where is the common sense? Do you have any? Do you give any thought to this stuff that's going on? Or are you just in neutral, going through life, a drone, just doing what you're told to do, believing what you're told to believe? Wake up. And this last story I'm going to leave you with, it's not specific to the old left coast, although it is a story about an illegal immigrant. The Democrats like to tell us that they're safe and that there's no danger and blah, blah, blah. And while this is an extreme case, I think it proves one thing, that Americans, by and large, don't do stuff like this. This is animalistic behavior from third world countries that we're allowing into this country. This is out of Texas. An illegal immigrant deemed too dangerous by Cuban officials to be deported back to his home country. Too dangerous to be deported, but we kept him. The Biden administration kept him here. Was arrested for allegedly slicing his manager's head off in front of his family and kicking it like a soccer ball. The murder of Chandra Nagamalaya, a manager of a downtown suites motel in Dallas, occurred on Wednesday. He had told suspect Jordanis Cobos Martinez, 37, and another motel worker who were cleaning a room not to use a washing machine which was broken. According to the other worker, Cobos Martinez grew very upset that Nagamalaya, whatever, the manager, would not give him these directions in Spanish. Instead, the manager expected the other worker to translate to Cobos Martinez for him. Surveillance footage shows Cobos Martinez leaving the hotel room and grabbing a machete. He then starts attacking the manager, who runs back towards his office where his wife and son are located. He chased him from room 108 all the way to the office. A witness told CBS News the man was trying to get into the office to tell his family. The manager's wife and son attempted to step in, but Cobos Martinez, the psycho, pushed them away. Cobos Martinez ended the attack by beheading the manager. The suspect then kicked his head twice into the parking lot, his decapitated head, and proceeded to pick it up and carry it to the dumpster and put it inside. Witnesses to the attack called 911. Cobos Martinez was found by authorities covered in his manager's blood and still holding the machete just a few blocks away from the scene. Authorities said he admitted to the crime and he is being held in the Dallas County Jail on a capital murder charge. He is currently being held without bail. ICE has put an immigration hold on Cobos Martinez, who was released in January under the Biden administration from the custody of ICE's enforcement and removal operations at the Bluebonnet Detention Center in Anson. He was in custody, and that dipshit Biden and his dumbass administration had him released. Those people should be held accountable for this man's murder. Those people should go to prison for this man's murder. They are directly responsible. All these bleeding heart assholes who think people like this should be released into the community should be held accountable. Why are we listening to people who have no clue about public safety or a concern or care about public safety for that matter? People with no common sense. There's a common theme here in all these stories, if you've noticed today. There's no common sense. None. None. No self-preservation. No nothing. It is mind-boggling. The barbaric criminal was released because Cuba would not accept him because of his criminal history. But we'll keep him here. Yeah, he'll be fine. We'll talk about it. We'll just talk about it. If we're nice to him, he'll be nice to us. That's how these idiots think, right? We'll just sit down and talk about it. Talk it out. Somehow that'll fix everything. Cobos Martinez allegedly used a machete to behead a merchant he had an argument with in front of the merchant's spouse and child. Cobos Martinez has a lengthy criminal history in the United States. In 2018, he was charged with aggravated assault, but pleaded it down to a misdemeanor, serving 1 year in jail, according to KHOU. In April 2017, he was arrested in California for attempting to carjack a 22-year-old woman while naked. But I'm guessing California didn't do a thing either, because why? None of these left coast states believe in jail or prosecution. They don't believe in protecting the public, which is their one basic thing that they're supposed to do. Leadership in these states believes in chaos and doing things that create as much chaos as possible. Why? Well, I'm assuming because out of chaos comes control. And eventually, when things get so chaotic in these states, our dear leaders are going to enact a lot of control. And of course, all the drones in these states will go along with it because dear leader knows best. Dear leader knows what's best for me and my family. All these people claiming to be for freedom. Freedom. Socialism and communism is not freedom. Look at the past. That is not going to change. There's not going to be some new form of socialism or communism here on the left coast that's not going to include removing your freedom and keeping you poor. I actually saw a sign at a Seattle No Kings protest that said, Antifa's manifesto is the Constitution. Anybody who's looked into anything about Antifa knows that they're either anarchists, socialists, Marxist, or communist. Period. Those are the basics of their beliefs. That shit is not in our Constitution anywhere. Anywhere. Like I said, the mental illness runs deep on the left coast.